Welcome everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Esther Kihoro. I'll be your co-host today, and welcome for joining today's session on outcome mapping and bricolage as we prepare for the OMLC Learning Lab later this year. I will be joined by the facilitator today, and the presenter today will be Julius Nyangaga. Julius has over 20 years of experience on outcome mapping and outcome harvesting. So he will take us through the basics of the outcome mapping today and how he has used it previously on bricolage. We hope that the session today will be quite engaging, where we'll also engage you to have a conversation around your experiences and also your hopes. So before further ado, I would want to inform everyone today that this session will be recorded and you will have access to it. And Simon will paste here on chat the link on how to access this session. But before further ado, maybe it's good to know who's in the room. So I welcome us to just say hi, tell us your name, what organization you work, which organization you work with, and a little bit about, your experience with mail. So is it currently, how do you feel? Is it difficult? Are you probably enjoying it? Is it exciting? Just a little bit to know where you are. So I'll start from my screen. Maybe I can start with Bijita. I'll just call the names as they appear. Do you want to unmute yourself and just
Yes,
introduce? Yeah.
thanks. Hello, Esther, and hello, everyone. My name is Bijita Dev Sharma. I am joining from India, Hyderabad to be more specific. That's a city in the southern part of India. I'm a MEND practitioner. I have been uh, evaluating programs for over a little, I think 16 plus years now. And I've been lucky to, I had Dr. Sonal Zaveri as my mentor, who's also part of the community, the outcome mapping community. She has been my mentor. So, yeah, Sonal has guided me all along. And I have actually had the opportunity of using outcome mapping a couple of times for different evaluations that I have led or been a part of. And yes, I love evaluating. I love being part of this community. I love my work. And I am really excited to be a part of this particular lab because I'm learning so many different methods that I was not exposed to before. So, yes, thank you so much. Over to you, Esther.
Thanks, Bijita. And yeah, nice to hear also that you have acquaintances with Zonal. So next on my screen is Dina.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, Dina. Good morning.
Good afternoon, actually, sorry. In Cape Town. I'm in Cape Town, South Africa. Hi, Julius, some old friends. Hi, Simon. Hi, Esther. So I started working with outcome mapping. I think we brought Terry Smatila to South Africa in 2015 to do some training. And then Julius as well. So I've attended his courses as well. And I've worked with Simon. So I've been told that and then experiment on my own. And I love the methodology. I use it in many different ways with program design as well as thinking around designing evaluations in particular. And I'm looking very forward to sharing with everyone, learning new things, and I'm very still inspired about Upbuild because I still believe that we have a really important to play for transforming and creating meaningful change in the world. That's me.
Thank you, Dina. Yeah, coincidentally, we're in the same city. I'm also in Cape Town as we speak. So yeah, good afternoon to you and nice to meet you here online. Next on my screen is
coffee.
We should, yeah. I'll drop you a line. Next on my screen is Dickshire. Please.
Hi, I'm Disha and I'm from Nepal. So I'm very new to monitoring and evaluation. So it's just been 2 years that I'm in the field of monitoring and evaluation, and I'm also a mentee for Evaluate Global Mentorship Program. And my mentor is Dia, and I'm learning like new things from her. And I got to know about the OMLC from her, and I've been through 2 videos of OMLC, and so I'm learning new things. So it's very good journey. So far, I'm liking it.
Thanks, Dikshay. Yeah, you're in the right place for learning. Next on my screen is Elia.
Hello, I'm Alia and I'm currently in Senegal. I'm in communication and I'm learning about OMLC and bricolage, and I'm excited to learn all of those methods that can help me and my company. We work in advocacy, better understand and better get input from all of the field work that we do.
Thank you. Next on my screen, I have Mahesh.
Hi everyone, I'm Mahesh Krishnan. I'm based in Thiruvananthapuram. So I'm a recipient of the Feminist Innovation in Monitoring and Evaluation Small Awards by Global Evaluation Initiative, and I'm a core team member of Gender and Equity Network South Asia. So I specialize in something called applied semiotics, and my passion lies in exploring creative and culturally grounded approaches in evaluation, like blending art, storytelling, data. So yeah, I'm excited to learn from everyone here at the lab, exchange ideas on methodological blending and explore new ways to design innovative evaluation practices.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, I can't wait also to be at the lab and just explore these unique ways of blending the various methods. Next on my screen, I have Hussein. Hussein, are you there?
Sir, are you seeing me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is Samsul Hussain Sadi. You can call me Sadi. I am from Bangladesh. Currently, I'm working at Save the Children in Bangladesh as a male officer. And I am also the founder and co-leader of Evaluate Bangladesh. So recently, we have been launched it last August 15th. And I am also participating in upcoming bricolage December 1st week. And basically, for if I say about my learning about outcome harvesting or outcome mapping actually, so I have been worked with Rohingya refugee communities in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. So there was a DFID consortium project, and here I've been worked with a consultant for most significant change, but it was little bit learning actually, or little bit experience. So hopefully I'll get some more learning from bricolage, and also I am connecting with for last series also, and I think it was so worthy actually. So hopefully I will learn more from all of you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Also looking forward. And I already hear you're already doing some bricolage already in the method you're using. Next on my screen, I have Nazir.
Thanks, Esther. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm Nazir, based out of Islamabad, Pakistan. I currently work as monitoring, evaluation, and learning manager with the Global Coffee Platform, which is an organization working for sustainable coffee production and consumption. We work in 6 different countries. I have been working in monitoring, evaluation, and learning for around 10 years. And some experiences using outcome mapping in one of my previous organization, where we used it to develop our theory of change and tried some bricolage, I would say, using the term, because we tried to use it with the traditional methodology of log frame, doing all the work, thinking process using outcome mapping, but just to align with the traditional approach, putting everything in a matrix to make it more understandable for peers who have been more used to this approach. Other than that, exploring different methodologies, have been following resources from outcome mapping and outcome harvesting communities. Happy to see people from Evaluate networks, that I have been part of Evaluate Asia, and as well as helped co-founded the Evaluate Pakistan a few years ago. Yeah,
Thank you.
looking forward to meeting those who are going to be in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, looking forward. Next is Bhatia.
Hello everybody, this is Om Prakash Bhatia. So I'm from just let me, I think I'm visible now.
Yeah, we can see you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm at home and celebrating our Diwali celebrations here. So I'm from Islamabad, Pakistan, and I've been working in monitoring and evaluation since 24 years. Mostly I used conventional M&E methods in evaluations, baseline, midline, log frames, developed theory of change and tested the uh, uh, theory of change for different projects. In my 24 years working experience for M&E, I've been involved in education projects for 16 years. And currently, I'm working for Mother and Child Support Program and since Social Protection Authority, which is World Bank funded project. So this project has different dimensions for behavior change on mother and child. One is to bring mothers to hospitals at the pregnancy stage. Other one is to reduce the home-based deliveries, which is now 40% in Pakistan. So
Thank you, but in the interest of time, I think we'll have a group session and maybe we can learn a little bit more about it. But just to give everyone at least a chance to say hi. But yeah, looking forward also to meeting you at the lab.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Johnston. Maybe just a few seconds to say hi, where you work, and yeah.
Thank you very much, Esther. I had a feeling that you were going to call me. That's why I put on my video. My name is Oyindamola Johnson, but you can call me Damola for short. I'm currently based in Brussels, in Belgium. I work with VVOB. Probably some of us know the organization. It's based in Brussels, Education for Development. I work as a global proposal and project developer. So what I do is I support all our country offices in terms of developing innovative projects and really, really honing in on proposal development. And as we are aware, monitoring and evaluation, being able to measure our results plays a key role in terms of being able to, develop this in key innovative projects. I was opportune to attend the winter school here in Brussels that took place last year, and that has sort of, spiked my interest in this subject domain. While the concept is not new per se to us as an organization, it's really an innovative way of thinking that I want to start incorporating into the projects that I develop. I'm looking forward to joining the lab in Sri Lanka in December. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnston. So I see we also have people who have practiced but are keen to hear how to blend this with other methodologies. Over to you, Rachel.
Hi, I'm from Malaysia. I currently work in an international faith-based organization. I found OM 3 years ago online and have been introduced the approach to the entire organizations. So right now, I think just trying to learn more about that and how I can continue to contextualize further and adapt it further. My experience with M&E came, I think about 10 years ago with my work with World Vision Malaysia. So that one is heavily on logical framework and more significant change. So OM is still very new to my organization. Yeah, hoping to learn with you all.
Thank you, Rachel. Maybe quickly we go to Shimu, Vera, then Simon.
Hello, nice to see you all. This is Shimu. I'm Shimu Caroline Shikdar, working in ADRA, Bangladesh, based in Dhaka. And I'm working as the program director, looking after and also leading the program team here, along with all the projects that we are implementing.
Thank you, Shimu. Over to you, Vera.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vera. I'm based in Finland, and I'm part of the Outcome Mapping Learning Community Stewards team. So I'm volunteering with the Outcome Mapping Learning Community, but I'm also working in a Finnish organization, which is a youth organization. We work on youth empowerment and meaningful youth participation, and we have been applying outcome mapping and outcome harvesting in a couple, I don't know, maybe almost 10 years now. So I'm the one in charge of monitoring and evaluation of the organization, and I'm mainly working closely in partnership with our local partners that work in the project work. So I'm kind of supporting the application of outcome mapping and harvesting, but I'm also working on the design of the monitoring and evaluation work. Yeah. So very happy to be here and looking forward to meet you all in Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Vera. Simon?
Yeah, hi everyone. Really nice to meet you all. You've probably seen me on the emails. I'm the coordinator of the Outcome Mapping Learning Community, and yeah, coordinating a lot of the activities for the lab. And I'm helping Esther and Julius with this as the producer of this webinar.
Thank you, Simon. And maybe just some housekeeping before I hand this over to Julius. We had planned this for 60 minutes, but we hope to have around 90 minutes. Apologies, your calendar may have read just 60 minutes. We'll try and deliver most of the content within the first 60 minutes, but we have a group work activity that will also help us engage and get to know you a little bit more. So if you have time, please stay. And if you can stay, I'd be happy if you showed me with maybe a hand or something. So this webinar is one amongst many that I've put on your chat. So just in the interest of letting you know what to expect. So this is the second one we're having in a row for those who have already registered for the lab. So we know not everyone knows all the methods that there are, but we'll be having different people introduce the team that will be coming to the lab on some of these concepts, as you can see on your chat. We'll also record all the sessions and you can access them through the website and the link provided in chat. So without further ado, I would want to introduce Julius. Julius, as you set up your presentation, I'll tell people a little bit about you. So Julius is a monitoring and evaluation specialist with over 20 years of experience in outcome-focused assessments. This is outcome mapping and outcome harvesting. He was trained in outcome mapping by Ricardo, in outcome harvesting by the creator Ricardo Wilson Grau, and has collaborated on various evaluations with him. And his experience spans multiple sectors, combining methodological knowledge with practical adoption of OM and OH to project contexts. And he is also the CEO of Right Track Africa, one of the consulting arms here in Kenya. And I know most of you have interacted with him on various trainings or evaluations. Over to you, Julius, and welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Esther. I hope everyone can hear me well. I'm glad to see have you attend this seminar today, this webinar today. And I've seen, yes, it's a long time since we met again in South Africa and somewhere else. Glad to have you around, and many other people I think who have, we've met. So to tell you, in brief, Esther just said who I am. As apart from our outcome harvesting training by Ricardo, the outcome mapping training, actually, I got it from IDRC itself way back in 2005, while I was working in the International Livestock Research Institute, when the researchers really wanted to know how to make a difference with their research and their research findings, research evidence, and research capacity. So without spending a lot of time, I'll just go ahead and share my my screen, and then we just go through a few. I'll just go through a few slides. I'll make it as practical as possible. This is not really very theoretical. It's not supposed to be a very theoretical coverage, but I'll try bringing a practical example of outcome and an understanding of outcome mapping, why we find the thinking very valuable in project management, and how it has been applied in a case example. And then the idea of bricolage, because bringing in different methods or combining different methods builds for quality to the whole thing that you're trying to approach. And I noticed that Nazir is one of the person who has mentioned combining outcome mapping block frames. So I found that very useful. So this is going to be the webinar plan. So we start with outcome mapping very briefly, and then we go to understanding the bricolage aspect of it, and then how bricolage helps outcome mapping mixed with other methods. Now, for those ones who have come across outcome mapping, this framework is actually the basis of the entire project management process. It was developed by IDRC way back in 1999 or 2003 when the book was published. And again, outcome mapping itself was a result of some detailed study on different project management processes that cover everything into a way that makes it practical and usable, especially when you consider the word outcome. Many times we gloss over it, or we have gotten very many different understandings of it. But this really helped bring out a very significant part of project management that we find a lot of value for. And the definition and explanation of what outcomes are, especially when you consider that if you're doing a project, many people are very familiar with the interventions. We did that, we trained, we developed this, we supplied this tool, we built this capacity, we trained some researchers, we published a paper, but what difference did it make? And that's where the outcomes language comes in. And it's defined very clearly in the outcome mapping process. So the entire framework has got these three stages: the intentional design, and then monitoring and evaluation. The intentional design is the planning stage where the whole team sits and plans the project through these elements that you see listed there, the 7 elements. I'm not going into a lot of details, but some of you have come across it, should be familiar with, but I'll focus on a few as examples to explain. The second aspect, the second and third is monitoring and evaluation is then based on what was developed earlier on. Now that you've identified the changes you're trying to achieve and how you're going to support them through a range of interventions that are identified in step 6, that's strategy matrix. How will you know that you're making the progress, or how do you learn from the progress that you're making or not making? And that come using monitoring journals, in collecting data and understanding how that is done. And in the end, at the time when you want to do an evaluation, whether it's going to be mid-term or after 6 months or at any particular time, how do you use the same language to evaluate the effectiveness of the progress that your project made? How do you develop lessons from that project? And that is the evaluation plan. I call it general evaluation. But for those of us who have been with the outcome mapping world, should be familiar with the fact that outcome harvesting came from a better think out of what that evaluation plan is all about. So I will explain a few of these steps using a project that Esther and I got involved in. It's a street family or street youth support project that was being implemented by an Norwegian agency, Taxvaki, working with some local CBO called in Nairobi in Kenya called Undugu Society of Kenya. Undugu means togetherness, coming together and let's help each other. It's a project that has been in Kenya for the last 5 years. I think they're still going on. But the idea was to try and get the street youth who have got not very supportive or broken families, or they find themselves in the streets, to really develop, lead useful lives, really qualitative lives, despite their context, despite their destitution, despite their vulnerability. And so they invited us to try and help them develop those steps of outcome mapping, and to a point where they developed journals for them. And a vision was, what exactly is the project trying to achieve? And so I just extracted a few highlight bullets from the very long vision statement that they developed. They say, for the 5 years, we are trying to see how we can get the youth to lead and be part of societal progress. Use their power to get and develop a more just equal world, go from just surviving to thriving, become ambassadors of change, and try and push for right-based participation in progress. This was the vision of the project. The project in Swahili actually, I'm more familiar with the Swahili version of the label. Sisi pia tuna haki in English actually means we too have rights, because they tend to be quite neglected. Now, look at the mission is then what was the project going to do? Rather, generally, broadly, how was the project going to achieve to get that mission? And if you look at the content of the mission and the content of the vision is the overall change, while the mission is basically how the project is going to bring about that whole change. Not very detailed, but steps of it. So, for example, one of the things is to organize the youth into their associations with strong foundations, empower them through advocacy, negotiations, and human rights expertise, partner with the relevant partners, government bodies, their families, or those ones who don't have families, other families and human rights institutions, collaborate with police, the media, and disabled advocates, because most of these youth actually also tend to be those ones who are disabled. Nobody is interested in supporting them. Nobody is interested in working with them. So you see the language here is generally how the project is going to bring, the mission of the project to bring about the vision. Then now this is the interesting part. So, because this is a complex situation, you talked about street life for these kids. They live under streets, in tunnels, out in the open. They may have families, they may be running from their families. They're constantly on the run with police and security agents. They are vagrants. They tend to be considered to be, criminals in one way or the other. So the project identifies the boundary partners to try and say, how do we bring about that vision? And you see this list of 6 boundary partners is what they identified, despite the wide range of actors. What I find interesting in this project is every time you ask a project team to think of boundary partners, they always bring what we many would have seen as beneficiary communities of boundary partners, despite the explanation that you may not necessarily be linking with us, have a direct effect on the wide beneficiary community. So they were talking about street youth in 2 cities, Nairobi and Kisumu, youth families, those ones where the youth come from, on other families where the youth tend to interact with legally and illegally, the neighborhood, local communities led by local leaders, local agents, and then we have the government agencies like Kenya Commission on Human Rights, the Independent Police Oversight. We have the Gender Equality and Commission and the Paralegal Society of Kenya. They identify these. So I'll just see what we call outcome challenges, that some of the challenges or the outcomes that they struggled to get at. For example, the street youth particularly, they were looking towards a situation where the youth be able to self-organize and negotiate, form associations to engage the various agencies, especially the government, for dignified livelihood and food security. Those organizations will influence decisions. They collect evidence to demand inclusive, rights-based healthcare, gender justice, because some of these youth tend to live in contexts where they are really exploited and abused, because especially the young girls, are really exploited and abused by whoever comes across them. They demand legal accountability, where they could ask the government to, and agents accountable police and services, and try and stand up for the rights of especially the disabled. This was the outcome challenge for the street youth. And then the families, whether the ones that the street come from or others, build trust and partnership with the youth. They work as facilitators rather than controllers. They promote and protect the youth rights. They co-create initiatives to support the youth. They generate knowledge, local solutions. I remember in one very successful example, where an estate, a suburb, that actually decided to work with the community in creating job opportunities or business opportunities for this youth as part of the project initiative or project goal, which was quite lovely, because then the youth get things like car washing, mechanical, street sweeping, garbage collection, things that the families now say, with this kind of engagement, we can coexist with them, give them food, trying to make sure they have some kind of quality life wherever they are. This was quite something, and we saw observed as one of the success of the projects. And then try and shift mindsets to supporting youth social and economic opportunities and resilience rather than just totally ignoring. This is broadly what the project was trying to do with the families. And just one more example of the local communities, they build safe and inclusive hubs. They provide psychosocial support, operational services, where street youth of all orientations can safely gather and organize and run activities. Now, I'll not go to the rest of the outcome challenges, but I'd like to see that these are changes about the partners, or rather what they identified as boundary partners, rather than what the project was going to do. Because what the project was going to do then becomes a strategy matrix. This comes from what are your interventions. And they're just as important as the outcomes, because this is where the project spends its resources and time. So when the project got funding, it had to strategically think, how do we organize and make sure that all the partners we've identified and the outcomes that we're looking for get the support they want. So for example, if you look at the strategy matrix and outcome mapping, you will see this categorization of cause, persuade, and support, either directly with the boundary partner or the environment. And we saw combinations of, for example, developing agreements and contracts of how the project could work with the agents, or rather the agents could work together and support the youth. There was financing, they were providing training, they were providing healthcare support, or infrastructure, providing the necessary infrastructure for them to try and live a common life. This is something that cost and change because it was there, they were providing. But the more popular ones is the persuade strategies, or the persuade interventions, where they would inform not just the youth, but all the boundary partners together. You inform them, you train them, you provide research evidence, and you even bring them together to negotiate for ways of existing. They don't necessarily cause a change, but they provide, they contribute towards that. And the final set of strategy interventions, or interventions from the strategy matrix, was supporting. For example, long-term looking, developing local experts among the youth themselves or other agents who are conscious about the street youth and how best they can develop that, how best they can support each other, or providing tools and guides and reference materials on how to support the youth. For example, the gender inclusivity, abuse or abuse opportunity, abuse tools, where to report to police, what cases they want. Most of these youth are not identified by the government. The government provides an identity card, a national identity card to all the citizens in Kenya. But for you to get that identity card, you have to have a parent, you have to have a home, somebody has to know you. The street youth, some of them don't even know where they come from. So this project had developed a very unique identity card that they negotiated with the government that once you give this youth this card, please allow them to move up and down and get the services that they want until they can get the national ID. So I remember this was one of the things I found very, very effective, but it required the Undugu Society of Kenya working with Taksubaki to really negotiate an acceptable identification tool with the government. So these are some of the interventions that the project did. Now, the difference between these interventions and the outcome challenge, this is how they change and then what the project did to try and support that. So when we're doing monitoring or evaluation, we are tracking the changes in all these outcomes versus the interventions that contributed to that. What worked and what didn't work, what changed, what did not work, what did not change, and how do we learn from those lessons? So that's what I wanted to briefly say about outcome mapping, and pose two questions. I didn't put the slide, but I just want to ask, for example, if I may ask one or two people to answer before I go ahead. Why do you think this project picked out the youth as boundary partners than, say, for example, the government officials and service providers?
Can you say the question again, Julius?
Yeah, okay. The thing is, why did the project pick out among the boundary partners? They select the street youth as boundary partners rather than, say, the government officials or the other service providers, they still singled out the youth as boundary partners. Why do you think that could have happened? If anybody is able to answer that.
Can I quickly go?
Yes.
Excuse me. I think the youth were selected as boundary partners because they are key stakeholders in the entire process, and they have a stake, one, and they could impact on the success or not of how the project goes and evolves. So they're key non-official stakeholder in the entire process.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Anybody else wants to probably give an explanation how that could have happened? Okay, this is what I feel. Okay, go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, yes. Yes, so just taking on from what Johnson said, yeah, precisely. I mean, I feel from amongst all the boundary partners that you presented, this program can make maximum shifts or create those shifts only if you are working with, the core stakeholders who will probably lead that change. And in this case, clearly, if it is a program that works on, for the rights of street youth, I feel that it only makes sense to work directly with them first, to engage them in the program. So that's why I think, to me also, it comes as the most natural selection as boundary partner to invest directly on the people who are going to lead the change. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Bijita. Yeah, so it's the same experience. Like I've said, every time I work in projects and I say boundary partner are actors that the project is going to deal directly with and try and influence their behavioral change. Yet they're still bringing in the beneficiary community as a boundary partner. It's because, in my understanding, and I can see that's what you're saying, they still say the behavioral change of the beneficiary is also very critical to the success of the project. So a beneficiary is seen as both a beneficiary, like, for example, that's where you'll get impact changes, like, for example, food security, economic well-being. But at the same time, it is their behavior that is also critical to the success of the project. So they bring them in. And I've seen that. I've seen where projects have also identified like farmers as boundary partners. They've identified school children as boundary partners, which was it's not wrong, but interesting to see why they see that. As because they say in this project, and it's not just the representatives, because they could say, why don't you just use youth representatives as the boundary partners? And then if you see the youth representatives changing their behavior, and then the wider population of youth we understand it's going to happen. They say, no, it's actually the youth representatives' behavior does not necessarily imply that this is where we need to look to see the outcomes. It's a combination of both. But like I say, every context is acceptable. Nazir has raised his hand. Nazir, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
Just a quick question. So boundary partner is, I understand, based on my limited knowledge, is like those who are going to get directly engaged with the intervention, like who are going to be the let's say if the government officials, they're going to, because we need to change some behavior at their level so that they work maybe more effectively with the youth going forward. So maybe in a way, if there are direct interventions with the youth, then they can also be boundary partners. But if there were no direct interventions with the youth from the project or from the project implementer, maybe we may not consider them boundary partners. So I don't know if my understanding of boundary partner is correct, or would like to, clarify that.
No, you're right. You see, the thing is that there are two thinkings that actually influence this decision. One, the project stands to interact with a wide range of actors, very many, and it can't because they're limited in time, they're limited resources, even, for example, possibility of influence. So when you are selecting boundary partners, first of all, it's just to narrow down to what is workable. Who can you directly interact with? At that time, the word is directly interact with. And so they say, let's single these ones out. All the others are also very important, but because of our limitations in reach, money, and time, we can only select these ones. So that becomes a criteria for selecting, and you find the youth being brought on board. The other criteria is where do we think the behavioral change is most critical, because that behavioral change really matters for the success of the project. So the other actors, for example, the government agencies, the regulations, their laws, the services provided are very important for the success of this project. So we are going to monitor how the government agencies change because of what the project is bringing or the interventions the project is providing. But at the same time, the youth behavior is also critical. So that's why I see project teams using that combination to single out what we may consider as beneficiary populations as boundary partners as well. So I will go on to the next next slides, which is bricolage, to show again now then how does bricolage come in. Now, we've come across this. I think you must have talked about it last time. You may have been mentioned. For those ones who have been attending the Outcome Mapping Lab are aware that this is the year when we are trying to see what we mean by bricolage in project management. A very interesting concept, and I hope all of you can make it to Sri Lanka. If not, please visit the Outcome Mapping website. We have got quite a number of webinars that have been presented with this concept, and see how we bring it in. But it's really the application of different methods and tools to a context, to a specific context. This is what we have, but this is what we have. But because we can't stick to one method, let's find different ways of bringing different approaches or different methods that satisfy what we're looking for. It comes from the French word bricoleur, means handyman, or we use whatever terms are available. So the more important aspect is being creative with what you have, not necessarily what you're instructed by the manual that you should have, which you may not have all the time. So what in bricolage is, what tools and methods do I have available? What does the context actually need? What do I need to adopt to bring this into play or to have my outcome mapping model well? How can I combine this creatively? What do I borrow, adopt, or imagine, or and reshape? So in distinguishing from the traditional approach where you have, especially when it comes to outcome analysis, you have, say, for example, let's say we did this, what has changed? The thing is to adapt and combine and improve on what is available to try and serve your project design as well as possible. Now, this is very important in outcome mapping because project operates in very complex contexts. Because, like I said, for example, the example of the street family, street youth project. These are dynamic environments. There are some that we are talking about two cities, but they are not exactly the same. We are talking about street youth and street families, but they may not be having the same background. They may not be having the same challenges that have and opportunities that are available. So the project is working with what is available. So you can't have a rigid, say, for example, train the youth and this is going to work. No, in some cases, it's not training the youth that matters. It is a combination of training and providing some kind of police understanding or space for their security to be able to operate. In some places, it's not the skills that they acquired, it's more the environment that allows them to coexist with their families, because even the neighboring families can be very hostile. So how do you bring in the different understandings? So bricolage really helps when you have these contexts that are unpredictable, communities and stakeholders that are diverse behavioral status. Some of them were very supportive, some were not. You have a limited time resource, especially limited resource, especially time, budget, and expertise. And one method may not necessarily be able to fit for all. So in this project, the CCP Atunahaki project, one, you can see the wide range of boundary partners that they were working with. And some of them, they already left out for what they worked with those years that they were in place. Some of the boundary partners in working when they interacted with them, they found them totally clueless. They had no idea that street youth have a community of members who need to be supported and some of the challenges they face, and they need to be, what kind of support the project was to bring in. They had no idea. There was a kind of inadequate understanding of the street youth life. Some are openly hostile, like for example, automatically the police and some of the homes where they street youth, they see them as vagabonds, as vagrants. You all know about the street youth, and they don't understand some of these kids or some of these youth come. It's not their fault that they are there. They are really trying to survive and be like any other normal human being. But because of the way they look, they are unkempt, they are not properly well dressed, they tend to be very hostile. So the families are building tall walls or barbed wire, or they set their dogs on them. The police are constantly running. Anytime there's a crime, they are the first victims they are the first people to be suspected as the culprits. But some of the agencies are very friendly. They know them, they've interacted with them, they've gone to their offices. For example, we found some hospitals, some youth, some nurses that were aware that these youth get injured, so they're providing some free medicine. I think there were some churches that also involved. So when you have boundary partners at different levels of a desired outcome, then it's important to think, how do I combine the different methods to set up a project design, monitoring, and evaluation framework that covers everything. So in the M&E work, that is the framework that we give, they combined outcome journals and other data collection methods to be able to get that. But so these youth, you can understand, they're not literate, they don't write, but they can be able to tell very good stories. So the program scheduled storytelling, know what's going on, how is this happening, how many people are affected, how many youth are affected, how many are on board, how many are not on board. So they also had to bring some quantitative indicators and collect data in a way that is effective using surveys, and then adapt the tool based on the partner literacy. The project tried to make it as participatory as possible. So it's not just the project doing everything, but the youth and whoever is coming on board as a boundary partner was part of the whole data collection, especially for monitoring and when they call us to do the evaluation. So this combination calls for a bricolage mindset. How do we combine the different methods because of that? But another way I wanted to bring in the outcome mapping and bricolage is the combination of outcome mapping with the log frames. And this is where I was curious to hear what Nazir had said earlier on. In a log frame, we have this grid that has got this 5 very key results, critical results that we think are critical for the success of a project. When I've been all the time I've been now applying outcome mapping, I've found that outcome mapping really helps these log frames in identifying the right contents for this framework, and even the indicators, the evidence that should be used. There is a way that these log frames, somebody may think that's very rigid, but actually, if you bring in an outcome mapping mind, it really helps you. For example, the goal usually is one line, but when you have a vision, it's a richer, more narrated target than just a goal in a log frame, or the mission, which is the project objective, how you do this. And then the outcomes is when you unpackage them into behavioral change, that really helps. And then the strategy matrix is what do we do, what do we produce, what are the interventions that we come in to do that, and that really helps do that. The outputs and the activities, how to get there. So this combination or these log frames can be supported, can work together with outcome mapping as a bricolage process to try and inform each other and get where we want to get at. So in the process, the bricolage allows you to learn or know how to mix, the various qualitative and quantitative methods that you're looking for, different theoretical frameworks. You use tools from different disciplines. This is very critical. When you are monitoring a project and you bring in outcome-oriented, or that's why I was talking about outcome-focused, outcome-oriented approach, you realize some of the indicators are not necessarily easily learned by the normal ways we do things. You have to bring in, for example, with the policy process or regulation, somebody has to do a review of policies and how they've affected the different regulations, which is a different discipline, say, for example, doing an economical analysis or a biostatistical analysis. And then be flexible to know what you're doing or as the situations evolve. What you used to monitor this year may not work next year because something else has come up. So that's why outcome mapping really welcomes the bricolage thinking, so that you can be constantly looking for solutions in either designing the project or monitoring or evaluating in ways that help you. For CCP at Nahagi project, The project team was using visual appraisals. They would go around, take photos and videos as long as the youth agreed. They were, their rights to be photographed or videos taken was acceptable. They would use storytelling. Like I say, most of those partners cannot tell stories. I mean, cannot do surveys, but they can tell very interesting stories. But there are places where you could do surveys, to be able to give a very defendable quantitative data. Media reviews, the youth live in contexts which are constantly covered by TV and radio. And see that this was they were very rich sources of information for the progress that the project was making. And like I said earlier on, policy documents to see how they are being formed. They are being informed by the project or being informed by similar families and how they are influencing the government regulations and any other actor, how they do that. And the project was invited both the NGO and the local and the funders to attend their meetings, ask questions so they can get as much information as possible. So this is where I see bricolage really becomes helpful when it comes to outcome mapping and even in outcome harvesting. So before we go further, is there any further question? That's what I wanted to present today. There's so much more information that we could have covered in outcome mapping, especially the distinction between outcome boundary partners and beneficiaries, bound behavioral change and impact changes, strategy matrix in a richer way of how to use that matrix to really think through interventions, and then the monitoring journals themselves, how to collect data to be able to inform progress or lack of progress and what is working and what is not working. I will pause there for now and ask if there's anybody with a question. I can see some hands have been raised.
Yeah, thank you, Julius. We have Batia's hand up, and we also had Vera who had raised her hand earlier. So maybe Batia, you can go, then we have Vera coming.
I have one question regarding the framework you displayed for outcome mapping. So I mostly designed the same framework to test the theory of change. So can you please explain what is the difference between these two frameworks if we apply these in our project? So what can be the difference, or these are the same?
So the theory of change is another angle, it's another process to project management. This is what I'm giving my understanding, where outcome mapping or outcome mapping thinking really helps you to think through any other method any other process, any other project management process that you want to apply. The clarity of change as the target goal for a project, and you defining the change as behavioral change, then helps you, if you're talking about theory of change, where does theory of change fit into your, what does behavioral change fit into your theory of change? And how does outcome mapping help you inform, review, or, help you really enrich the theory of change or get it better informed? Or on the other way, can your theory of change help you identify the behavioral changes that should be targeted? So they can support each other. And again, that's the value of bricolage. So you come either from, you are an expert in the theory of change, and then using that understanding, you can help people doing outcome mapping on how better to identify or develop their visions, their missions, the boundary partners or the partners where to see behavioral changes and the interventions that work. And if you use this, you see this log frame, it also provides a space for what will be the indicators, how we're going to measure them, and what assumptions are we making that is going to happen. Or you have an boundary partner, then an outcome mapping framework, and then you have to enrich or rather to review that theory of change and see, given that this is what outcome mapping does, does this work out well, this theory of change that I had in mind? What is missing? What are the gaps? How do I enrich it? So it's either way, you can use the two thinkings to support both processes. Any other question?
Vera? Thank you, Julius.
Actually, I lowered my hand already. It was related to the earlier discussion, but maybe I can just point out because I work for Taksverkki Finland, which is the partner organization of Undugu. So the reason the main reason to involve the youth as boundary partners is related with our strategy, because we are youth organization and we work for right-based youth work. So all our partners are youth organizations that promote youth rights. So it wouldn't be possible to kind of work on right-based youth work without involving the youth themselves, the street-connected youth, to promote their own rights. So I see that as an only option for us to have them as the key boundary partner. So it has to do both their own behavioral change, so their empowerment, their healthy lifestyles, their relationship with different actors in their society, but also through their example, they can act as peer educators and peer support for other street-connected youth, but of course also as becoming youth leaders, street-connected youth leaders, they are able to relate with different actors in the society with different ways. So they become as role models and positive role models. So the different key boundary actors or stakeholders in the context, they start to behave differently towards the street-connected youth because of the relations that they create with those key leaders. But yeah.
Thank you very much, Vera. Thank you. Say hi to the Taxvaki people. I hope they still continue to work with the youth. This was around 2-3 years ago. I talked to the Undugu Society director here in Kenya. I just told them to use the case example. She said, go ahead, there's no problem. Yeah, so he gave me the permission to use this case example. But
Yeah,
I'm happy
great.
to hear that you're with Taxvaki. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
thanks for the explanation that this project was very participatory. They say they couldn't do whatever they wanted without engaging the youth as key critical members of their project. So it was a very participatory process. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, any other question? I can see Sadi has raised his hand.
Thank you so much, Julius, for your nice presentations. I'm just going to the log frame as it appears. So in our normal project, we are seeing same log frame, looks like activities, output, and outcome. Some project has no goal or impact. We are saying about the objectives. So you are saying it that outcome mapping helps in from these elements. So in our normal project, we are using it. So why we are not saying that this is not outcome mapping in our project, and why you are saying that this is the outcome mapping log frame? I'm just asking from you, what was the basic difference from the projects of those who maintain outcome mapping, and those project is not maintaining outcome mapping?
So thanks a lot. That's a good question. The thing is that we don't have an outcome mapping log frame. We have an outcome mapping intentional design. If I can just go back to the first slide that I wanted to, this is, yeah, this, you remember this slide I presented? This is the framework. This is the outcome mapping framework. We don't have a log frame. This is how we operate from. These are the elements we identify at the beginning of a project, and we use them to implement the project, or rather to get the project going, especially in identifying the actors that we're going to work with, the outcomes you're looking for, and the select set of interventions in the strategy matrix, and then we fund them. We do all that we require to get those outcomes that are going, and then we use the monitoring journals to try and track progress in those partners or and behavioral changes that we've identified. When we are doing evaluations using outcome harvesting, we use some of the information here and even more. What we ask in outcome harvesting is who has changed. Combining those ones we targeted to bring support influence change and the ones who we didn't. The ones who, as a result of our interventions, actually, they transformed. So outcome harvesting, you harvest wider. That's the evaluation plan. But this is the framework for outcome mapping. But now in log frame, this is just generally a general framework for log frames. Now the thing is they can support each other. So the log frame has got this grid, and I think it means results framework or results-based framework. The thing is that information, the content that you develop in outcome mapping can help, inform this, or this can help identify the outcome mapping changes or framework that you're trying to develop. They can be done independently, but what is useful in bricolage is to combine the thinking, bring the thinking together to either enrich your outcome mapping framework or the log frame framework or any other framework that you're thinking. The thing is the language, and especially the focus on outcome change as a target of the project and as a way of analyzing the effectiveness and the progress of the project. We're using either monitoring journals or an evaluation plan. That's what I was pointing out.
Okay, got it, Julius. Thank you so much.
So it's out on the hour, Esther. I don't know how to go about this, but this is what I would like us to finish our exercise with. I don't know if that's going to be possible, but is it possible to assist me in organizing this?
Hi, Julius. Yes, that's okay. I think Simon will get us into groups. We'll get into 2 groups. I hope everyone is able to stay for a few more minutes. We have a group work session of 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll get back into plenary and yeah, wrap it up. Simon, over to you.
Well, the groups are set up, so tell me when to launch them, and I will open the groups and send people off.
So maybe the instructions are, let me just go through the instructions. So when you go into your different groups, you've only got 10 minutes to do the following. So there's not a lot of time even to do introductions, but try and, because the introductions have already been done. One of the critical things is to identify a project. Now, if you think you're going to spend too much time thinking of a project, just use the Taxvaki project as a case example. And the 1 or 2, identify the boundary. The boundary partners have been identified, and focus on a key behavioral change. It could be a government agency, it could be the youth themselves, the families, the local community. Local communities like the local leaders, either government-based or selected by local community. Then think of how can bricolage help you to track and evaluate progress in your boundary partners, in your selected partners. That is the exercise. So you take about 10 minutes discussing and then come up with the number 4. And then we meet after 10 minutes. Is it after 10 minutes? Then we have a feedback and then we see how to conclude the session. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Julius. So I think we are ready now to go into the groups. Simon, we can play it by the ear to see where people will be after 10 minutes.
Okay, off you go. See you in 10.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You have a very short time for that, but I'm hoping that people got to see the sense of first of all, the meaning of outcome mapping itself, the essence of the outcome mapping framework and the approach. They focus on behavioral change as a way of designing the project through the intentional design or intervention support, and then using behavioral changes to develop your monitoring tools or monitoring journals, or even doing an evaluation. That is the most important aspect. They focus on those kind of results. Who is changing and how are they changing in a behavioral way? Anybody with a question from what the discussions, anybody with any comment to say how the discussions unfolded?
I guess from our group, one of the things that I noticed in the responses was that there was a good mix of both qualitative and quantitative means of measuring behavioral change. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks a lot for that. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, we also had very interesting discussion, taking a real example from one of our projects in our organization where we are working with smallholder coffee farmers in Uganda, focusing on improving their yield and income, but the project works with them through through youth business service providers. So in a way, the youth businesses are our boundary partner. We are working through them to influence higher level changes in practice adoption and income and yield for the farmers. So yeah, behavior change at the youth level is, they accept the training, participate in the training, and continue providing services to the farmers. Some of the suggestions for evaluation or combination were outcome harvesting or maybe contribution analysis, evaluation questions, yeah, that will be used. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Nazir. Anybody else with a comment? If I go next. So if you saw the example I gave in the screen presenting the outcome mapping and then the bricolage aspect and what you've just discussed, and thanks a lot, Johnson, for saying the combination of both qualitative changes and quantified indicators is one thing that we need to be conscious of. In some aspects, you can only get a qualitative aspect of what has developed so far. So, for example, if you're discussing the extent to which, say, hospitals or police agencies or national bureaus that registration office is accepting to bring on the youth for registration as citizens who are then entitled to services the government can provide, the numbers won't help. The numbers will only come in when first of all, you see how the regulations changed. What has changed since the project started? How do they do the processes? Now, these are qualitative changes that you can only get from either informant interviews, discussions, or looking at the documents. Then from there, then you can count them. As a result of that, what numbers can we say this is succeeding? So in some project frameworks that are really quantified, when you don't have the numbers, then you have a challenge in trying to explain the success of your project. Because see, you can have a police agency going through reforms to try and identify the youth, but the numbers are not there yet. And the danger that you may say that project did not succeed. Yet they've had some significant change. Families have opened up opportunities. They are presented. They are meeting the youth. Something is going on in a qualitative sense, but you may not have the numbers. And as the example you just given is very good. From agriculture, we tend to look at yields. We tend to think outcomes should be the yields, number of kilos that were harvested at a certain time in a certain season. We forget what it took to acquire the skills and apply them as a qualitative change that should also be monitored as a success of the project. Yeah. Thanks a lot. I don't know. This is going to be my last presentation. I think I'll just finish it up here and hand it over to Esther and Simon. So we have the Bricolage Learning Club coming up in Colombo. From what you've just heard today and from what you hear in the webinars that have been scheduled, I've seen Simon has also listed a whole number. If you're able to attend them, please suggest 3-4 compelling questions that you'd like to be discussed, to hear, something that the organizers can try and say, this is coming from the presentations we had, let's consider how we can bring them into discussion. Whether you're able to attend or not, we will really give due considerations to whatever you suggest. Thank you very much. And then with that, I hand over back to Esther and Simon.
Just to say, your slide is a bit incorrect, Julius. The Colombo event is the 1st to the 3rd of December.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. Just to make sure
Julius will continue it for next 3 days with all of us.
Yeah, maybe you're organizing a follow-up after that.
Oh yeah, maybe.
You're inviting us all to Nairobi.
Yeah, welcome. You're welcome. I saw you based. No, that's Nazir is based in Uganda. But anyway, we could do another follow-up if this becomes interesting. You find this very interesting, you're most welcome. So we can continue with this beyond the Sri Lanka Learning Lab. Thanks.
Thank you, Julius. Very passionate about outcome mapping, outcome harvesting. And yeah, looking forward to meeting everyone in Sri Lanka in December, the 1st of December to the 3rd of December. Please, if you've not bought your tickets, I think this is the high time to finalize on the logistics. And I believe most of the people who are here will be there. I think we've saved a few minutes, and I would like to say if there's anyone who has a final word, feel free to put your hand up. If not, then we are happy to give you 8 minutes back to your busy schedule. Anything on your end from you, Simon?
Not from me.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure meeting all of you, and see you in Sri Lanka. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.